Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
It's not the greatest country in the world.
Finally, really did it. You maniac! I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore! You bring them death, and they will love him for it.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Hello, friends and enemies, and welcome to another episode of Recovery from Politics Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Frame, and today is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. The war continues in the Middle East. Yay, us. So, just a quick thing to get some of the headlines out of the way. Kuwait mistakenly shoots down 3 U.S. F-15 fighter jets. So, yay, friendly fire. Luckily, all the pilots ejected safely and have been recovered and are being treated for any wounds they may have as a result of that. A laughable joint statement from the United States, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates says that Iran's being reckless by attack and by threatening, regional stability. And Hezbollah has officially joined the chat from Lebanon, so Israel's now striking them again. I heard some disturbing news late last night, basically saying that we have already fired a third of the United States weapons stockpile going into this at a price tag currently of $500 billion for just currently, not even 72 hours of war right now, a full third. And that's a little concerning. And apparently the Pentagon is slightly concerned that if this keeps up, a adversary of ours could take advantage. My immediate brain went to thinking, I hope Putin hasn't been keeping his powder dry, waiting for just such a right moment, just sitting there going, maybe there's going to be a regional conflict because this Trump guy's kind of an idiot. And once he blows all his weapons through, then I'll really strike Ukraine. And I know the likelihood of that is low, but the only reason that jumped out is because that is a current ongoing military thing. It's not a new thing. But then, of course, a friend of mine did bring up that there are adversaries out there who have been waiting to make a strike. They've been saying for years, we want to do this thing. And the biggest one that came to his mind was China taking on Taiwan right now. If we blow through all our munitions and put all of our eggs into one basket, that is going to leave countries like Taiwan open to being taken without a single shot fired from the United States. There'd be no way we could defend it. That's a serious problem. And it really led me to look into some things because a lot of people love the idea of a quick retaliatory strike. And retaliatory strikes can be quick. They can. A little bit of planning, a little bit of training, you get everything figured out and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, you've done your thing. But when it comes to a retaliatory war, that is a much bigger thing. And that's what this is, because yesterday, President Trump was talking about this could go on for 4 weeks. So his usual lie is 2 weeks on everything, but 4 weeks is a bit different. And so somebody told him this will take about a month. So if this takes a month, and in 3 days we've already burned through a third, you can only imagine how much worse it's going to get. And this is why you don't rush into this shit. Not only because, you have an impulsive president who's going to go ahead and do this, and you have impulsive allies. Apparently, Israel and Saudi Arabia were both lobbying really hard that now is the time to strike. Not because Iran was going to have a nuclear weapon, but because Iran was in a vulnerable position. They were dealing with a lot of those protests. Apparently, they already have a water shortage, and it hasn't even hit summertime yet. So look out for that to happen. And Saudi Arabia is clearly one of those countries that has no problem being bordered on a failed state. I mean, you go look at Yemen. They've completely obliterated it. It's got nothing but the Houthis trying to defend it. So Saudi Arabia is totally fine with Iran being a complete failed state and with them having regional control over it. I'm not so sure about Israel. I think Israel just wanted Iran gone because they were the only other country that could theoretically wage war on them. But we now have this situation where, because of the impulsiveness of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the president, that wonderful concoction, we went to a full-scale war, not a strike, but a full-scale war without any due process, which I know a lot of people are focusing on. But the thing that I'm really worried about is we're doing this without the infrastructure necessary to do so. So Pearl Harbor happened all the way back in World War II. And I know times have changed, but logistics really hasn't. The means of it has, but basically logistics is logistics, okay? This has been a thing that has been argued since Sun Tzu's Art of War, okay? And he even had to make it painfully obvious. Sun Tzu's Art of War is an extremely simple book that says a lot of shit very obviously, you would think, like, don't go to war against somebody with superior numbers. Have the high ground, basic stuff that most people would think, well, yeah, duh. But he had to write that book because a lot of people were not accepting obvious things as truths. So it is one of those things. And right now what we're dealing with is somebody who went to war without logistics. Okay? We had Pearl Harbor, war was declared the very next day, yet D-Day didn't happen for another 2.5 years. Because the mobilization of that many people, of that much equipment, and the right conditions, and the right plans and strategies to materialize and mobilize and get everything going, took 2.5 years to do. That is for a full-blown war, an invasion against somebody who very much wanted to kill us as well. So 2.5 years from Pearl Harbor to D-Day, even though war was declared the day after Pearl Harbor. And obviously that was the largest military scale operation of its day. But I think what people don't think of, because honestly, if FDR wanted to storm the beaches of Normandy on day one, yeah, he could have. But then his supply lines wouldn't have been formed. His troops would have been left and they would have run out of bullets within a day or two. Basically, they would have no supplies. The logistics would be completely gone. And that's what we're looking at right now with Iran. There is no infrastructure in place because for all the critiques of Bush and Cheney going to war with Iraq in 2003, and there are a lot, one of the things they were doing behind the scenes that most people weren't seeing, because obviously all we were being sold was the nuclear or weapons of mass destruction threat, and Saddam's a bad guy, and all that BS. As that was moving forward, the PR campaign, the pushing of Congress, the writing of the rules, the arguing with the UN on whether or not to do it, behind the scenes, Bush and Cheney were also preparing the logistics to be able to go to war with Iraq in 2003 so that we wouldn't run out of munitions, our soldiers wouldn't run out of food or basic supplies that they would need once they get there. Now, they completely flubbed the occupation, but we're not there yet with Iran either, so we'll see. Iran, I don't think, is going to be occupied, just as a side thought at the moment, because Trump believes the war with Iraq in 2003 was good. It was the occupation that ended up driving Bush's numbers down. And Americans, we love military victories. So if Trump can go out, if he were president for Iraq 2003, he would have done his mission accomplished thing, and then that would have been the end of it. Iraq would just be a failed state, possibly taken over by ISIS by now, and occasionally he'd launch some Tomahawk cruise missiles to do things to look, I'm doing something, but absolutely no occupation. I see that coming up pretty quick here. But the point is the logistics necessary to make sure that your troops are fed and clothed and armed and have water. I mean, again, we're sitting here. Iran doesn't even have enough water for its own people. It's not summertime yet. There's not going to be enough water for our soldiers. If you were thinking, well, we'll just do the Sherman thing and we'll live off the supplies of our enemies, that is not going to be an option for this. Even though as the United States and logistics as they are today, that's a terrible idea. we are sitting in a situation where we're going to be sending our troops into harm's way, possibly with very limited munitions, rations, all kinds of medical supplies. We could be seeing a complete destruction of forces. Because keep in mind, when it comes to medical supplies as well, you know, the big problem, another big problem with Iraq was all these soldiers were coming home with limbs missing and serious disabilities, whereas previous wars, those men would have died in action because the technology wasn't there and the supplies weren't there. In this case, in 2003 and beyond, we did have the medical equipment and training and personnel necessary to make sure that those soldiers, while very seriously hurt and requiring a lot of rehab on their way home, were still coming home. That may not be the case going forward. If we get boots on the ground here in Iran, it's very possible, because this thing was put together so haphazardly, we're going to end up with a higher body count than we normally would get. Whereas normally a soldier might lose a finger, now they might lose the hand or the arm, you know, that kind of thing. So we could be in a very serious situation where we're going to see grotesque amounts of death and, of our soldiers, and it's going to be a result of poor logistics and poor planning. That's why war takes a long time. This is why Saudi Arabia and Israel didn't want to do this on their own. That's a pain in the ass. But the United States has the means to do it, but that takes years to do. If you were going to tell me we're going to create a serious plan to actually go to war with Iran and make sure that we crush their military, take care of their nuclear apparatus, if we really seriously wanted to do it, destroy their entire terrorist network, this would be a war that takes years and would require years of advanced planning and logistics to get in place. That is not what has happened at all. We've sent a couple battle groups over to the Middle East. We're launching missiles. We've obviously launched some fighter jets. We're already running into problems. We've burned through a significant amount of our supplies already. And again, it's only been 72 hours, and our president is currently talking about 4 weeks. At the rate we're currently going, we're going to be out of supplies in about 1 week. And that is going to be frightening for the rest of the world, because for the first time, the United States military, with all of its power and might, is going to be defanged. We're not going to have the capability to respond anywhere else in the world. So yeah, I'm thinking current conflicts, Ukraine and Russia, and I'm thinking, I hope Putin doesn't have something left in the barrel right now, because now would be a great time to do it. And if I'm China, I'm sitting here going, is there ever going to be a better time to take Taiwan? Because the United States is burning through their munitions, and it's obviously going to take them years to replenish them, and they don't have the infrastructure moving as if these missiles are just coming off an assembly line at a record pace. Remember, again, on the analogy World War II, car companies switched over to building tanks for the war effort. That is not what is happening right now. So we have a very serious problem coming down the pipe. I don't hear enough people talking about it. It is being mentioned now, but a lot of people are already jumping ahead to this idea of occupation. Again, I don't think the United States is going to occupy shit. I think Trump is very scared of that. I hope he is, because for God's sakes, we had Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, guys who actually did know how to do war, but fell into their own heads and started sniffing their own farts as to how powerful the U.S. military was, that they didn't think of the occupation afterwards for Afghanistan and Iraq. And those guys knew what they were doing. You had generals like Colin Powell sitting there going, I know how this shit should be done, and they still flubbed it. So even when competent individuals, or at least experienced individuals, they'd seen war, they know what war was, they couldn't pull off Iraq and Afghanistan. So I would hate to see what these assholes are about to do with Iran if they actually think, well, we do have to occupy. We're screwed. We're Vietnam level deaths. We're going to see 5-6 digits of American deaths. It's going to get really ugly really fast, and the region is going to fall into complete chaos. So I am very worried about this. And it's it's going to get ugly. It really is. I almost hope that for the sake of American lives, just for the sake of lives, that our current president is such a chicken shit when it comes to the idea of occupation that his plan really is to just break it and bail. Because if his plan or his administration's plan is to actually leave troops in Iran for a prolonged period of time to, I don't know, maintain peace or continue to snuff out whoever he views as the enemy there, we're going to be in a world of hurt very quickly. Which brings me to the next problem I'm having right now, and that is the Democratic response. Most Democrats, especially leadership, we're talking Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, are not mad that we're going to war. They're mad that the process isn't being followed properly. Both put out statements talking about, hey, the president needs to tell us what's going on, and wouldn't it be great if we had a vote? And I'm just like, you dumb sons of bitches, every single one of you. Much like 2003, where we had the same thing going on with Iraq, where everyone started off the preface of, well, I know Saddam Hussein's a bad guy, so, I'm not opposed to going to war, but we need to do it the right way, and we need to plan properly. And that was the official Democratic response. And because they already ceded that ground to the Republican Party and to Bush and Cheney, you end up in a very serious problem where you do have this now of the media only focuses on the process. And so you had the media, you had the New York Times, the Washington Post, you had Wall Street Journal, you had Democrats arguing strictly about the process, about we don't mind going to war of choice. We just want to make sure that it's being done correctly through the proper channels. We would like a say in the matter, which is the complete wrong way to go about doing this. You'd think we learned absolutely nothing from 2003. People like myself who lived through it in real time. While I did not see any action and I never visited Iraq or Afghanistan, I was in the military up until 2006. So I did see the aftermath and the clusterfuck that was coming. So for me, I'm just sitting here pulling the hair out of my head. Like, did we learn absolutely nothing from anything? This is ridiculous. But again, the Democrats have fallen back on their original playbook of, well, we don't mind war because everyone agrees the Ayatollah was a bad man and we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So we're okay with war. We just want the president to keep us updated, and we would like him to ask our permission first. And that is the complete incorrect response to this. The only response that is worth a shit is to call this what it is, which is an illegal war. It is an unconstitutional war. It is internationally illegal as well. And not only should there not be a war, it never should have happened. Democrats should be screaming, the Democratic leadership should be screaming that the only responsible response to this situation is a vote of impeachment. Okay, the president took the United States to war unilaterally. Doesn't matter if that war is just or not. The war is unjust, but that's besides the point. The president did this. He deserves impeachment. But also make the case. We did not need to do this. We did not. This is a vanity project for the president, just so we could say he's the one who did something. This is being bent over a barrel by Saudi Arabia and Israel. Saudi Arabia owns Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner clearly was telling the president that this is a good idea. His administration is completely on board with bombing this country that has done nothing to us directly. I mean, for fuck's sake, there was somebody on the news saying, well, Iran has been guilty of thousands of Americans' deaths, and the anchor at the time was like, where? When? When did this happen? When did Iran kill thousands of Americans? And it just devolved from there because the person had no answer. They had no response. Iran may have been pursuing a nuclear weapon. I certainly would if I were them. But whether they were or weren't, we have no evidence one way or the other. The case has not been made. No one did. And I hate the idea that, oh, well, if they just made the case, there is a case to go take out Iran. I disagree. People have a right to self-determination, and it is not up to us to decide whether or not they made the right decision. Okay? This regime was on its way out. That's the ridiculous, stupid part of it all. They were killing their own people in mass protests. This regime was not long for this world. Would it have taken 10 more years, 15 more years, maybe another generation? Yes. But this was not an indefinite regime that could stay in power forever. This was somebody clearly on their way out the door. We just had to sit back and watch it happen. And instead, we decided to go in and remove them for a vanity project, and the Democrats are completely dropping the ball. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries need to be removed from office. I hope somebody's primarying the crap out of both of them right now, and I hope, honestly, that somebody's talking to them and yelling at them and pushing them, that their own caucus gets up and does something, because right now, unfortunately, in the two-party system we have fascists and we have fascist light. The Democrats have always loved everything the Republicans do. They just wish they wouldn't do it as much, which is why I label them the conservative party. We do not have a liberal or left party in this country. We have ultra-hard right fascism, and we have the conservative party of the Democrats. We don't have anything even remotely close to anything of the left. Okay, people who point to Bernie Sanders, in Europe, in Denmark, Bernie Sanders would be considered a conservative, for fuck's sake. He would not be considered a lefty liberal by their standards. But right now, there is no anti-war response. There are very few people, none of them in power, a very small handful of House representatives. I believe Thomas Massey is the only Republican in the House who is saying anything about, we shouldn't be doing this. Which, okay, congrats to him for having that to say right now. It's a little easier for him because he's already on the outs with the administration over Epstein. So kind of like you do see these former Trump acolytes, once they fall out of it, they're like, oh yeah, that was really bad. Kind of like a Liz Cheney. So good for Thomas Massey, and yeah, we have AOC and obviously Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib are doing fantastic work. Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost, they're doing good stuff. But again, they're singular House members. If all of them got together, they could affect zero change. Meanwhile, you've got the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, sucking on Trump's orange balls. The vice president, the only funny news out of this politically is that the vice president was kept completely in the dark. He learned about the Iranian war the same way we all did, because he and his position has been, we should not be doing this, just from the America First, standpoint of no new wars. Like, that was something that Trump ran on, and J.D. Vance actually backed wholeheartedly. I don't know what he's doing right now. We haven't heard or seen him in 3 days, so it will be interesting to see what he does, if he does anything. I imagine he will come out and give a full-throated support to MAGA about all of this and say, no, actually, this is great. I don't anticipate a huge split between the vice president and the president on this. But it is very, very discouraging that the Democrats are still very much in favor of this war. They just really wish the process played out properly. And again, over 150 dead school children as of right now. We have our own fighter jets being shot down by our own allies. Iran is just throwing everything at the wall right now. Because why not, right? Like, you just decapitated all of our leadership. Trump made a ridiculous claim that was probably a little bit of a tell. Everyone he would have preferred to take over for the Ayatollah, he accidentally killed in airstrikes. So all the people that he was like, yeah, I could work with that guy, well, he's dead. So congratulations. We have absolutely no idea who's going to result as being on top or leading Iran, if anyone rises to the occasion over there. And again, it's all because there was absolutely no plan. This was haphazard craziness. And again, one of the things that would have happened if we planned correctly was we would have anticipated, hey, if we cut off the head, Iran's just going to say, fuck it, right? Because, like, peace isn't working. We tried in good faith to do the nuclear deal with Obama. It got tore up. We said, fuck that. Okay, we need a nuke. We weren't bombing anybody, but whatever. And everybody wanted to pin the Houthis and Hezbollah and everything and Hamas on them. And they're just sitting there like, yeah, we're fighting that way because that's all we've got. And everyone's sanctioning us and punishing us, and everyone thinks we're the enemy. And yeah, some of that is self-inflicted for sure, but there was no need to go to this length to do this. And now you've got a situation where they're like, we tried. We failed, but we tried at peace. It clearly is not working. I mean, what would you expect us to do? If the United States were in a war and for some reason just decided, okay, we're not going to win this thing. Like, I'm pretty sure the Iranian National Guard, like everyone in Iran who's in a leadership position knows the United States is most likely going to win, and that's in air quotes, the war. What would our response be? Our response would be, well, you know what? We don't like these guys over here. We don't like these guys over here. Fuck it. Launch everything. Fire everything. Why not? So over 20 nations have been hit in the Middle East. It's causing all kinds of instability and everything else. Again, this is one of those things that if everyone had planned and thought of ahead of time, they could have prepared for. This is where a coalition comes into effect, where it's not just Saudi Arabia and Israel and the United States going at this. You would have had all these countries that are bitching right now, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan, the UAE. They all would have come together and been like, okay, everyone, we're all going to go to war. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can do. We would have put anti-missile munitions all around Iran to kind of box them in and make sure that even if they do strike, it will be limited. There was absolutely no planning for any of that. So Iran has free reign to just lob everything. And another thing that is really pissing me off is that Lebanon is in control of Hezbollah, or vice versa, depending on the power dynamic going on there right now. But you've got Hezbollah in Lebanon. How hard would it really have been to go to Lebanon with a little, gift or present or some kind of peace deal that says, hey, if you can just keep Hezbollah the fuck out of this for a couple months, we'll give you X, Y, and Z. A deal could have been made to sideline Iran's allies as well. You could have kept them off the board entirely so that when Iran hits the, oh shit, everyone turn on and fire your weapons button, half of them don't work. But we didn't do that. We didn't plan at all. This is just battle group lobbing missiles, hoping for the best. Any intel that we had prior is now garbage. Okay? That's another thing. We didn't have an intel infrastructure on the ground that could know about this war in advance, plan for, okay, you watch this guy because this guy's a lieutenant in this guy's army and he'll know what's going on. This is the intelligence agency. We need to get somebody in there. You need to have a whole, like this entire thing. It's not just rockets, bombs, and boots on the ground. It's a spy agency. It's munitions. It's food. It's water. It's tanks, it's Jeeps, it's Humvees, it's everything you could possibly think of. It's, okay, what did we learn from Iraq? IEDs are going to be a thing, so we need to get our bomb guys up to snuff. Any of them who weren't actually in Iraq need to get trained properly on how to deal with, like, we could anticipate all of this. But since no one planned anything, and no one's fighting anything, and everyone agrees politically, war's cool, we just wish you did it a different way. We're stuck in this situation. And the next few weeks is going to be absolutely terrifying. And because we know the White House controls the press pool, not a single press member is going to have the balls to stand up and ask the president directly, what does this have to do with the Epstein files? Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.